in other words, it's the case that our social and economic relationships are severely asymmetrical right now, right? So as individuals, we're like intensively courted by companies who know much more about us than we do them, and who kind of disperse our digital selves into categories that are pooled towards ends that we don't choose, right? So we don't really have collective control over our collective knowledge. And it's exactly this sort of knowledge power asymmetry between us and the web giants that makes the freedom of association for purpose impossible. And again, for me, this is kind of what the purpose of the internet was to begin with. So just to emphasize again, right, what we do online is knowledge produced by the commons. And so to me, what ethical tech means is that the extraction and coordination of this knowledge should also be governed in common, right? Rather than extracted actually more often than not to be used against its producers, right? That's sort of the financial structure of the current internet. So what we record, right, just to emphasize, is our collective memory, right? So how it's used and what purposes we want to put it toward is like really a question of our culture, right? As sort of web people, right? So if our memory and our consciousness comprise what we're currently able to see, this sort of brings us to solutions posed by current decentralized alternatives, right? So on the blockchain, which I'm sure you guys are pretty familiar with, right? The decentralized tech that's kind of all the rage now. Each node, right, holds all of the data, right? There's a centralized ledger. So that means that each node operates kind of as its own center. And I won't go into like a huge amount of technical critique or anything like that, but I will say that for me, current decentralized alternatives are kind of troublesome as solutions because it still retains what I think is the major pitfall of our current digital economy. And this pitfall is kind of a denial of point of view, right? Because if everyone holds a central ledger of everything that happens, instead of privileging kind of a unique perspective of each user and their point of view, you get instead everyone having kind of a view from nowhere, right? Like a collection of data that's taken as absolute truth for everyone, everywhere, at all times. The reason why I said, you know, it retains the pitfalls is because to me this mirrors kind of how data capitalism works by taking data out of context, right? And again, this is the move that allows it to become a commodity. The data is held, right, not by a central entity that holds it all and makes decisions about its flow, like on the centralized web, but by, like I said, every single node on the network, even if, and this is kind of the kicker for me, like even if they don't care about the particularity of the data. You know, as a blockchain user, it's like, why should I have to preside over, right, and store people's transactions that I don't even know? So it's kind of like being forced to take responsibility for everything that happens, which actually doesn't increase freedom, it only increases responsibility. And so on technical terms, more responsibility means larger structural overhead for individuals who then end up having to like compete with each other over who can garner the most infrastructural power independently.